Going on, Facebook fam? You in here with me? I don't know what the devil going on. I'm having some serious technical difficulties tonight, but you know what? I'm here. So come on in the room. Oh, Lordy. Come on in the room. Oh, Jesus is my doctor, and he write out all my scriptions. Yeah, come on in here. Come on. I don't know. I have literally... What's going on, Matt Tice? All the way from down there in that there Houston, Texas, Beaumont, wherever it is that you at. Glad that you could join us tonight. Erica Nicole, glad to see you jumping on from Houston, Texas. And Sister New Seasons, you there? Oh, wait a minute. Is my thing like sideways? Like, am I sitting sideways? Oh, maybe that'll work for me today. I don't know what's going on. I told y'all I'm having some serious technical difficulties tonight. Y'all just work with me. We gonna see what the Lord gonna do here tonight. Anywho, so yeah, my technical assistant, he's helping me get this together. Thank you. I didn't say you was in Houston, Erica Nicole. I said that you was in Dallas, but my boy Matt Tice. See, I got a technical assistant today who's helping me out. Man, you got me sideways, bro. I need you. There we go. There, hey, we're almost there. We're almost there. Y'all make some noise, sound off. Let me know that you're here with me tonight. Go ahead and like and share this live video, and I certainly would appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about bouncing back from failures. And I'm not going to be on here long tonight. Man, listen, when you have a technical assistant who does not know how to work cameras, he got me out. Listen, man, you got me all checked. Tammy Renee, hey, thanks for being with me tonight. Once again, we're going to be looking at bouncing back from failures. So I want y'all to go ahead and like and share. This is going on Noe Rodriguez. Man, listen, Noe Rodriguez is doing some amazing things in the mental health community here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So getting ready to get right on into this live. Sorry here, y'all. I got like people sending me messages in my doggone inbox. It's crazy. At the same time. Sorry, you've turned it. You've turned it around. You turned it around.
Well, here. You fix it.
All right, yeah. It's just the leg. I'm sorry. Like I said, this has been a crazy day, you guys. We're trying to get this set up so we can go ahead and get this live started. Oh man, I'm sorry, you guys. Like I said, these are technical difficulties tonight on Hard Conversations with B. Chris, but we're gonna make this happen, right? So tonight we're gonna be looking at bouncing back from failure. This is kind of a continuation to the live that happened on Thursday, where I kind of told you guys a little bit about my story and my whole situation as far as going from prison to where I am right now. And during that time, that experience, I had a little bit of time to get alone to myself and to really just think. But I've also had some time. I've had some time since then to really look at some of the things that I did then while I was incarcerated, and some of the things that I've done now that I'm outside of incarceration. That have helped me really to bounce back, you know what I'm saying? Because it's really easy for us to tell people, oh, just trust God. If you just believe God, God's going to do it for you. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? It's easy to do that stuff. But listen, I'll be honest with you. Speaking to you from a guy who's been incarcerated, we need some how-to steps. And so tonight, I'm going to just look at a couple things that I did as it relates to bouncing back from what was perceived in my mind as failure. But then I'm also going to I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about me. So as I told you guys on Thursday, back in 2004, when I first came to the state of Oklahoma, well, I had been here about a year actually. I had transferred to Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I got involved with the wrong group of people. And getting involved with that group of people, they had me involved in identity theft, checks, credit cards, stuff like that. I thought that was real crazy. You know what I'm saying? That was not representative of my character. And looking back on it now, I realized what that thing was that caused it. It was lack in my life. And even though I was saved and sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, that with a mighty burning fire, could dance in 3 different dances. I had the footwork. I had all that. At that period in time in my life, because there was lack in my life, I literally fell in with the wrong group of people. And in my falling with the wrong group of people, they convinced me that, man, it's just going to be one quick deal. It's going to be all right. You just help us out with that. We're going to take care of you for it. And they did that. And I got sucked in. I got drew into continually dealing with them and their situation. And so while I was dealing with them and their situations, I ended up being that fall guy for it. But here were some of the things, though, that for me, hey, you guys that are sending me inbox messages, I can't respond to those and you at the same time. So here were some of the things that I learned while I was sitting there on my prison bunk. Jim Morgan, man, good to see you hop online, bro. Jim Morgan and I did a little bit of time, but you know what? I'm doing good, and so is Jim. Jim's out there, and I think he's in Broken Bow or something like that, making it happen for himself. He got a great job that he got connected with while he was incarcerated. But anywho, while I was incarcerated and then once I got out, one of the things that I had to do, and I give to you all as a tip to bouncing back to failure, is you have to redefine what failure is to you. A lot of times we struggle in that area because we just look at you made a mistake, so that's failure. But and I'll ask this question of you guys that are here, the couple of people that are on. What do you define failure as? How is the failure? How is failure defined in your mind? Because the way you define failure ultimately will determine if what has happened in your life is defined as a failure. For me, I remember nights I would lay on my prison bunk and I would just cry myself to sleep because I felt like I was a failure, like I had failed. I remember, if I'm being honest with you guys, and that's just how I am, I remember getting a letter one night from my grandfather, who really hasn't had much to do with me in my life. And he said these words to me in my letter that just destroyed me. My grandfather said, "You are a failure. You have disgraced his family. And long story short, pretty much, you're done." And I remember crying. First of all, I got pissed off because in my mind I was like, first of all, who are you to tell me that I've disgraced my family? Yeah, you're my grandfather, but you don't even talk to me. Like, I haven't talked to you in years, bro. And then you want to go tell me I'm a failure and I'm a disgrace to my family. But those words, I'm a failure, really just stuck out to me. And I remember beating myself up many a days while I sat on the prison yard on this whole, the devil plagued my mind with, you're a failure. Like, you failed. When you fail something, you're destined to repeat it. That's the way I look at this, okay? And I remember when I was in school, I used to get a failing grade, and I go home and my pops would be like, "Boy, you a failure." And I'm like, no, I really have to rethink this now. I have to redefine what failure. I had to redefine what failure meant to me. And in my redefining what failure meant to me, I realized that the situation that I was going through was not failure. It was simply learning moments for me. This is one thing that I know is success comes through failures. It comes through trials and tribulations, but it comes through failures. And so for me, looking at redefining, if you will, what failure meant for me meant looking at, okay, I am sitting here on a prison yard for a mistake that I made while I was a college student, but I have not failed. This is why I did not fail. One, I did not fail because I was still actively engaged in the things that God was calling me to do. I did not allow myself to sit back and start my own pity party. That's my next point to you guys that are dealing with it. Not only do you redefine what failure is, but you also you experience disappointment, but you can't stay in that place. You can't wallow in it. So while it is for me that my grandfather was saying I was a failure because I was in prison, the truth of the matter is I wasn't a failure. I was being sharpened for my assignment. Now, I'll tell you guys this all day, every day, twice on Sundays now, that before I went to prison, I was that church guy. My auntie Robin, she just booked into this doggone Facebook Live. She'll tell you I was the churchy guy. My sister T. Ash is on this Facebook Live. She'll tell you I was the church guy. Like, I was good and churchy, and I'm still kind of churchy now, but now my identity and my assignment has been properly defined now because of the experience that I went through in prison. Like, real talk. I understood then that I have a call to the lost, for real. Like, prison helped me to understand that while I can shout, dance, speak in tongues, exegete the text, this, that, and the other, like Christ, I understand that my assignment is to reach those who are lost. We do good for talking to church people, but I'm not called to talk to church people all the time. In fact, since Thursday, when I told a little bit of my story, I've been asked by several people to call their sons and call their daughters who are just getting out of jail, just got out of prison, and all they want to do is be stuck in that moment because they're wallowing there. They've allowed that disappointment to disable them. And so if you want to bounce back from failure, first of all, you got to redefine what failure is. It's not a failure. It's just something that you tried, and you need to relook at the process. I mean, there's so many stories that I can honestly tell you about that relate to my prison experience and prison situation that could have really just paralyzed me. But I chose not to allow those moments to be what defined me. I chose not to allow those moments of perceived failure to actually become failure for my life, because what happened for me while I was incarcerated is I actually became stronger. I became wiser, and I became more sharpened on what my actual purpose in life was. And like I said, I didn't wallow there. I have not wallowed in the fact that I spent 3 years in prison. Not at all. Got right out. I got myself a job. Like I said, we launched our church January the 22nd of 2017. And if I tell you the truth, I had an ankle monitor on my ankle when we started our church. I didn't have my own place to live. I didn't have my own vehicle. I had nothing but a word from God and an assignment to give. And I remember very specifically letting some people know, hey, this is what God is calling me to do. And I can remember their words saying to me, no, it ain't. Listen, you just got out. You need to do this. You need to do that. Blah, 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 blah. You need to be reinvestigating if this is what God has called you to do. And here I am 11 months later. We're still going strong as a ministry. God is blessing faithfully. And I honestly have no complaints. I have no complaints right now as far as what God is doing, because I chose not to wallow in how other people had defined me. I chose not to wallow in the situation and circumstance that I went through, but I used that as my stepping stone. The other thing that I did not do, or that I did do, is I disconnected myself from outcomes, and I really looked at the process. A lot of us are so outcomes driven. Like, we do things for specific outcomes, and we drop into this mindset of I failed if I did not achieve or obtain the outcome that I was looking for. But if you take a moment and forget about the outcomes that you're expecting and really work your process, work the process of becoming better, you may not get the desired outcome right now. But if you work the process has an outcome already built into it. You just got to work the process. And I think I don't just think it. I know this one thing to be true for me, is that when I stopped putting certain outcomes on what I was doing, and I just said, God, show me the process, help me to walk through and work through this process, then the outcomes that I was expecting, the outcomes that I was looking for, became real for me because they were already built into the process. That was the end road. And so I'm saying to somebody who's watching this Facebook Live even now, you have set certain outcomes, certain goals that you want, but you need to work the process that that comes along with that outcome. If you're looking to get married, I get it. You want to be married, but you got to work the process of getting you together. I said it. You want to be married, but you don't know how to cook, clean, keep a house. You don't know how to, you don't know how to just be a good you. Lord help today. You don't know how to be a good you. So work the process of becoming the best you that you can be. Work that process. Literally take a look at those things that are necessary for you to finish out. Can I tell on myself for just a small second here? Just a small second. I'm going to tell on myself. I have always been that guy who was so driven on the outcome. I always knew what I wanted, and I knew what it took what it takes to get that. And oftentimes I would try to find ways to go around the process just to get the outcome that I was looking for. So I spent the majority of my life trying to figure out ways to circumvent the process just so I can get to the expected outcome. And what God said to me literally is, son, you can't continue to circumvent the process. You have got to go through everything that you must go through. Why? So that when you get it this time, you won't get it prematurely. That was a word for somebody, just like it was a word for me. Apostle Joyce James, she just jumped on this live. I remember so very clear some years ago. She told me specifically, son, you have got to go through the process. You must go through Jerusalem to get to Samaria. I know you want to be the world's greatest preacher. You want to be the world's greatest this. You want to be the world's greatest that. But you got to go through the process for that. You've got to, hey, Apostle Joyce, you got to go through the press. You got to go through the fire. You got to go through it. And listen, sometimes, not sometimes, in order to get to success, you got to have some failures in your life. But you can't wallow in the failures. You've got to use that time to regroup and figure out what you did, what you messed up on along the way. And then once you do that, get your butt back on the line and go through the process. Stop looking at the outcome. Stop. I have to tell myself that every day, yo. Stop looking at the outcome. Because even now as a pastor, sometimes I get into this mode of my outcome is to have this successful church and this many members and this and that and this and that and da-da-da, that I never stop to really look at the process that it takes to get to that. Now, I don't know about y'all, but once again, I'm talking about me. Like, I like to eat chicken, right? I like fried chicken. I like baked chicken. I like chicken, right? But I don't like chicken that's undercooked. I don't like chicken that's undercooked, whether it's underfried, whether it's underbaked. I don't like undercooked chicken. And if you do not allow the chicken to go through the full process that it takes to actually be done, then you'll pull it out before it's too early. And then you be, man, listen, I got a deep fryer in there. And I would deep fry some chicken, and I put the fire up too hot, the grease on it too hot. And so when I dropped it, it was like, psh, but it was turning brown. And so I thought it was done. I pulled it out. But then when I bit into it, it was still pink, and it wasn't all the way done. It hadn't gone through its full process. And sometimes that's what happens to us in our life. Failure happens because we were under processed. We didn't go through the fullness of the process. And so therefore, when we got the outcome that we thought we were supposed to have, listen, if I can tell you the truth, the Lord had blessed me. The Lord had blessed me. I became an overseer in the Lord's church, and I wasn't ready for it. A lot of stuff that I experienced before I went to prison, I was not ready for it. I was exposed too early. And because I was exposed too early and too prematurely to certain things, it messed me up. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to value it. And so now that I've gone through a little bit of life, now that I've matured a little bit, some of the connections and contacts that I have, I can value and appreciate it. I'm getting the same outcome now that I wanted then, but the difference between now and then is that I've gone through the process to get to it. Okay. The next thing you have to do, if you want to overcome failure, sometimes you just got to get some sleep. You got to just let some time happen. Just rest yourself. because sometimes you try to do too much. Like, just get some sleep, let your body rest. When you go through this issue, they take a lot out on you. You know what I'm saying? I had 3 years to get some sleep. Okay, I had 3 years to get sleep, to get some rest, to get my footing, to think about some things, to just lie down and let my body just relax. And some people in this live can tell you that before I went to prison, I was just going. I was just here, there, everywhere. Why? Because part of that was because part of that was because I was trying to get certain outcomes. And so I was flying across the country, flying to everybody's church meetings, flying to everybody's this, that, and the other, because I was trying to get some name, some recognition, some something. I was trying to make something of myself. I was trying to be somebody. And I was wearing myself out constantly, always tired, because I was trying to become something that I was not ready for yet. And so there were a lot of times in those days where I literally felt like, what's up, Ulysses Ray McNeely II? There were literally some times in my life where, even though I was going and doing, I really felt like I was a failure, because I was not achieving those things that I was looking for. And God said to me, son, just rest. Get yourself some sleep, rest, and let me do this. Let me do this for you. I remember there were some times I remember I'd be sitting in offices waiting to preach and still felt like a failure. I still felt like a failure. Why? Because I was not fulfilled. I'm preaching on big stages. It wasn't fulfilled. I was just there. I was there. I felt like a failure. In my mind, I was a failure. And deep in the core of me, I was a failure. It's because I wasn't really working the process. I was working I was working the contacts in my phone. I was working this bishop, that overseer, that apostle, that reverend, that doctor. I was doing all that. But I wasn't fulfilled. I was just moving. And so I'll be honest with you, that 3 years that I spent incarcerated, it did me good. It let my name rest. It let my body rest. It let foolishness that was on the inside of me die. Because, man, let me tell you something. If you didn't know me before prison, some of y'all did know me before prison, but if you didn't know me before prison, I was a mess. I was a preaching mess. I could dance you under the benches, and I was still a mess. I was a failure. Why? Because I was doing it all on my own. I was doing it all by myself. Then here's the last thing to overcoming, bouncing back from failures. Don't be afraid to try again. If you messed up, listen, I think it was Aaliyah from Romeo Must Die. She said, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. Listen, you're going to make mistakes. They're bound to happen. But you can't allow yourself to get stuck there. Try it again. Like I said, you may need to just relook at the process. If I ask any of these pastors on here, if they were truthful, if in their ministry they've had to quote unquote restart, they'd probably agree with me. They had to restart because in the beginning they just did some things wrong. They didn't understand the process, and they certainly weren't working the process, and they were just doing what they were doing. Apostle Angela, there you go, Angela. Come on, testify about it. Let the people know. Kimberly Andrews, glad you're on here too. Look, Kimberly Andrews knew me when I was at the Idabel Work Center. I used to go to Kimberly Andrews Church there in Idabel, and I used to just sit, and I used to be trying to help Pastor Don Moore out there in Idabel, and he let me do praise and worship once, and we just had a great time. It was stuff like that was just that constant kept me from wallowing in where I was, because I had gone into such a slump for a period of time there. I was like, I don't want to do ministry anymore. This can't be what God has for me. Like, no, But God would allow me those little bit of moments to just say to me, son, I got this, but it's a part of the process. Prison was a part of my process. Bankruptcy might be a part of your process. Divorce may be a part of your process. But you know what? Work the process. Don't work the outcome. Work the process. Because I promise you, if you work the process, the outcome that you're trying to get, it happens. You want to know how you bounce back from failure? Work the process that you were supposed to work from the beginning. And don't try to skip over any steps. Don't try to do it fast. Don't try to make it quick and easy. Listen, anything that you get fast, you'll lose fast. I had to learn that the hard way. Anything that you try to get fast, you will lose fast. And so watch this. I was trying to get fame fast. And guess what? Just as fast as I was trying to get it, bam. You know, it's a blessing. I don't mind saying this now. I can say this. I'm getting ready for my first district meeting. Kingdom Impact Summit here as the district superintendent. And it's just something that I never would have imagined was going to happen. I literally didn't. But here it is now, not even just about a year out of incarceration. And here I'm the district superintendent, Church of God in Christ. God has restored back to me. He reclaimed my time, and he has allowed me the opportunity to do it right, to work the process. Okay. And so here it is. I'm getting ready to do that. But I can also tell you this much, that right before I was getting ready, or right before I was incarcerated, I had received an invitation to preach for the National AIM Convention of the Churches of God in Christ. This was in 2013. I will never forget this. I was so excited because here it was that I was getting ready to preach the AIM Convention of the Churches of God in Christ. And bam, prison happened. I felt like I was a failure. I get out of prison. It's been just over a year. God has blessed me now to be a superintendent. But watch this. Let me show you how God has reclaimed the time for me. I received an invitation just over 2 weeks ago to preach for the Holy Convocation during the Revival Fires on Tuesday night of the Holy Convocation this year in St. Louis, Missouri. God has reclaimed the time for me. He has opened the door back up for me, because I understand that I've got to work the process. I'm not trying to circumvent the process. I'm not trying to figure out ways to go around it. I'm not trying to go over it. I'm not trying to go under it. I'm going through my process. Process is not easy. Process involves pain sometimes. But go through it, because the outcome that you're expecting will come if you work that. Listen, if that's the greatest thing I've said tonight, and I feel, oh my gosh, I feel it so strong. Work the process. There's some young preacher, you watching me right now. You trying to figure out what it is that you need to do to get to where you trying to get to. Work the process. I know it don't feel easy. I had to hear a lot of no's. My pastor used to tell me in a quick minute, no, you can't go nowhere. Sit your butt down. Listen to the text. You ain't ready to go preach. I used to be pissed off. I was mad that my pastor told me I could not go. I used to think in my mind, how dare he tell me I can't go? I'm just as anointed. I'm just as gifted, and you gonna tell me I can't go preach? Now I understand. It was part of my process. I wasn't ready. All I had was a bunch of good cliches. He'll be a lawyer in the courtroom, a doctor in the sick room. Listen, if I can tell you right now, I know what it's like to have him be a lawyer in the courtroom. I do. If I tell you that I know what it's like for him to restore with the cankerworm destroyed, I do. If I can tell you that I know him to be Jehovah Jireh, I do. Because I've been through it now. It was part of my process. The process might be painful. You may not always get everything that you want. But if you trust God, if you allow God to work it out for you, you get the outcome. You will. You will. There's enough people on this live right now that's just watching that if they testified that when they worked the process, as painful as it might have been, they got the outcome they were looking for. But when they tried to go around the process, or when they tried to help God out, come here, Abraham and Sarah, when they tried to help God out, go, Abraham, you going over there with Hagar. She looking at you anyway. Going over there for just a few minutes. Here come Ishmael. That's the chosen. No, that's not the one. Sorry, you can't help me through this process, Abraham. I still got a son for you. It's still going to be the son of promise. And you going to wait. Oh, you laughed at me? This is what I'm going to do to help you out through your laughter. Name your child Isaac, which means laughter. So that you will know that every time you call his name, know that you laughed during the process, like I wasn't God and I couldn't do it. So you have to be reminded that you laughed at the process, but I'm still God. That's my encouragement to you guys tonight. That's my conversation with B. Chris tonight. Work your process. You want to bounce back from failures? Work the process. You want to achieve certain outcomes? Work the process. I don't care whether it is trying to get into a relationship or I don't care if it's you coming out of prison and you're trying to get back on your feet. Work the process. Work the process. Work the process that helps you become a better you so that you can get to your point of success. Work the process. Work the process. It might be painful. Keep working. You might hear some no's. Keep working. People going to talk about you. Keep working, because all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And if you are working the process, if you are going on the Bible says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And I'm telling you this part of it. He has ordered a process for your life. And you got to work it. Listen, I love y'all so much. Y'all just don't understand half the time. You all encourage me. You all look at what God is doing in my life and y'all say, I'm proud of you. But here's the deal. Y'all encourage me. The inbox messages that you send me, they encourage me. Okay. Brother Stanley Jackson. Listen, Stanley Jackson, I remember I was down there in Oklahoma City at the halfway house, and Stanley Jackson used to come pick me up every week to go to church. Encourage the world out of me, because you don't understand. Listen, I'm going to say this before I get off of here. If you've got a family member who is incarcerated, you don't understand sometimes what just a letter from them will do, or a letter from you will do for them. They may not respond in kind initially. They may be going through situation, circumstance. But listen, just to get a simple letter that says, I love you, that means a lot. I told y'all, my grandfather wrote me a letter that had me mad at the world. When that joker told me that I was a failure to my family and a disgrace, and I shamed my family's name, that wasn't what I needed to hear. But I got on the phone with my mother, and my mother, who just got into church like that. My mother says, you know what, son? You messed up. It's a part of life. Know that your family loves you. We're praying for you. And we're going to be right here to walk by your side when you get out. My other grandfather, this is what my other grandfather did for me. My grandfather said something to me that had me just boo-hooing in front of a room. I never forget, I was at Dick Connors Correctional Center here in Hominy, Oklahoma. And my grandfather said this to me. I was on the phone with him, and I was just bawling, crying. I said, Granddad, you know what? I've messed up, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out of here. My grandfather said this to me. He said, son, this is what we are going to do. We are going to help you get back on your feet. We are going to do everything necessary to help you get back on your feet. This is a we thing, because you got family. Messed me up. My family's walked with me through this process. There were days that I wanted to move back home, and my mama said, don't you do that. This ain't what this right here ain't where the Lord has you. Stay where you at. Work that process. Stay where you at. I know they told you no. Work the process. Watch this. 3 months ago, when they called me in the office and they told me, sorry, can't use you no more, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I heard the Lord say, work the process. Because if you work the process, then I can do what I do. But you got to be faithful to the process. Listen, I love y'all so much. I know I probably rambled on a little bit tonight. But I understand now what the Lord was trying to say to us. On this bouncing back from failure. You want to bounce back from failure? Work the process. I love y'all. I will talk to you.